Imagine yourself in a city built on water, where gondolas glide by moonlight and stories cross the globe faster than any ship. Venice, 1299. A city abuzz with rumors, greed, secrets, and the arrival of a wanderer said to have traveled farther than any man alive. Some call him Il Milione, the teller of 1,000,000 marvels. Others whisper he is a merchant of tall tales and foreign airs. The world he describes, golden cities, unbreakable bridges, burning black stones, dragons, and men who live like gods, shakes the beliefs of scholars, kings, and even street urchins. Did Marco Polo really see it all? Or has Venice, with its taste for legend, swallowed only a fable? Today on Echoes Through Time, we journey through palaces, deserts, war zones, and ancient cities to meet Marco Polo, the man whose stories redrew the world's map, inspired generations of explorers, and, just as often, met only skepticism and disbelief. What did he see? What did he endure? And what can we learn from the restless mind behind the travels? Settle in, because this journey stretches far beyond any ordinary path. In a shadowed hall off the Rialto, the house of Marco Polo is aglow with firelight and murmurs of reunion. The year is 1299. The great merchant and former captive returns to Venice. Tonight, he entertains well-born friends and half the city's curiosity. In one corner, a young visitor, Leo, eager, not Venetian, and perhaps a little out of his depth, waits to meet the man whose tales have confounded Europe. Above them, the carved beams are hung with souvenirs, exotic silks, painted scrolls, maybe a lock of coarse black yak hair. Beyond closed shutters, Venice listens, and history itself seems to pause. Will Marco's truths be stranger than legend? Our chronicle begins with a question, and perhaps with a bit of wonder.
Messer Marco, thank you for this invitation. I must admit I'm both honored and a little starstruck. For most people, the farthest I've ever traveled is a library. So, what's it really like to return home after the world you've seen? Do you ever wish you'd become a simple Venetian merchant and skipped all the miracle tales?
Ah, Leo, simple is seldom simple in Venice, or the world. But my return, after so many years, felt less like a triumph, more like a rebirth. My family scarcely recognized me, hardened by sun, clad in foreign dress, my tongue mixing the words of Mongol, Persian, even bits of Turkish. Even now, sometimes I close my eyes and the Rialto fades. I am still crossing the Gobi.
People here call you Il Milione. Does it make you smile or grind your teeth hearing your name turned into a punchline for every outlandish story?
Both, in truth. Some insist it means 1,000,000 lies, others that it hints at my family's wealth. But I accept both burdens, fortune and legend. I speak as I saw, though I know not all are ready to believe. Once, a priest urged me, "Marco, confess. Admit you lied." But even on my deathbed, I replied, "I did not tell the half of what I saw, for I knew I would not be believed."
What convinced you at 17 to go with your father and uncle? Did you crave adventure, or just want to know the man your mother mourned?
My mother died when I was a boy. The city's markets and merchants became my tutors. When my father Niccolo returned, he was a mystery wrapped in the scent of far-off lands. He spoke of Mongols, of vast empires, of a Khan who commanded from the sunrise to the edge of sand. I wanted to know him, yes. To understand the distance that separated us, and perhaps to become worthy of the adventure myself.
Your journey spanned, is it true, more than 24,000 kilometers? I can barely walk the length of my own street before wishing for, well, a decent pair of sneakers. Sorry, that was an anachronism. But what was the first crisis you faced? Was it really bandits or something smaller? Fear, maybe?
The first trial was endurance, not danger. From Acre to Hormuz, the heat of Iran nearly defeated us more than any sword. Yet the Taklamakan, the desert of death, forced us to learn courage. There we lost ourselves in mirages. At night, strange voices, some say evil spirits, perhaps echoes or people lost, called us into the sand. We learned never to stray from the caravan, never to answer whispers that sounded like loved ones. I knew then that fear, not thirst, was the true enemy.
You spent months, sometimes years, without news from home. How did you stay true to Venice, to yourself?
Venice stayed within, in memories, of canals, festivals, the smell of the sea at dawn. My father and uncle were my tether to home, but as months blurred into years, the world reshaped me. Each city, a learning. In Samarkand, I saw Muslims, Jews, Nestorian Christians trading side by side. In towering cities like Balkh, I realized the world was vast, our customs not the only way. Venice was still paradise in memory, but the present was filled with new paradises.
You fell desperately ill in the Pamirs. Do you remember the fear, the moment you thought you'd never leave those mountains?
There in the cold, I hovered between life and death. The altitude made breath scarce. My body rebelled, perhaps from tainted water or fever. I saw, in fever dreams, the faces of Venice, then endless snows. My father waited a year for me to mend. That patience taught me. Survival is as much about the mercy of companions as strength of will.
When you recovered, did you ever hesitate? Do I keep forging ahead or do I turn back? Or by then, was there no going back, only forward?
After surviving that, returning home seemed impossible and unfinished. I saw it as fate. If I'd come so far, it was so I might see what others never would. The journey became its own master.
How did you prepare for facing the Khan? Did you think of him as a king, a barbarian, a god?
Kublai Khan was unlike any king of Christendom, a ruler of countless peoples, yet profoundly curious and open to new ideas. The first time I saw his court, the halls were painted with gold, dragons, intricate murals unseen in Europe. He wore Mongol furs, but governed with Chinese wisdom. I was terrified, every glance, every word measured. Yet he welcomed us, not as intruders, but as envoys of a distant, valuable world.
You call yourself the Khan's servant, but weren't you something more? A confidant, an advisor, almost family.
The great Khan trusted me far beyond what I deserve. As time passed, I became his eyes and ears. I observed, reported, managed affairs. I was honored, sometimes envied. But I was never a Mongol, always the outsider permitted to peer behind the curtain. I did my best to be worthy, knowing trust is the rarest currency at any court.
What is your fondest memory at Xanadu? Not the ceremonies or the feasts, but some small moment.
I remember an afternoon in the gardens, watching Mongol children fly kites shaped like cranes. Kublai listened to them and allowed laughter, rare for one so burdened. In those moments, empire and duty faded, and the Khan became merely a father. I saw power not as tyranny, but as the patient care of something fragile.
Did you ever see the Khan angry? Was he as ruthless as his grandfather Genghis?
He possessed a temper, yes. He could be merciless, especially to those who deceived or betrayed. Yet he valued wisdom and mercy over blind conquest. Kublai believed unity meant holding many foes close, inviting scholars and foreign priests to his debates. The fear he inspired came from his ability to be unpredictable. With Kublai, no one was certain of tomorrow.
You mentioned debates. He famously asked for 100 Christian scholars from the Pope. Did you ever feel pressure to represent all of Christendom?
In every audience, yes. We brought holy oil from Jerusalem and letters from the Pope, but the friars who accompanied us fled in fear before reaching the Khan. Kublai questioned me often on Christian beliefs, seeking knowledge, not conversion. I found myself, at times, a poor theologian. Yet perhaps I did more for Venice and Rome by showing our people open to learning, not conquest.
The empire was religiously tolerant. Did you struggle seeing Buddhist, Muslim, and shamanistic rituals treated on equal terms with the host?
At first, it disturbed, and then taught me humility. Kublai judged performance, not creed. He allowed Christians to build churches, but also funded temples and mosques. I observed idol worship with foreign eyes, yet, after years in his court, I saw it bred harmony, not chaos.
Flash forward. What was the city or site that most astonished you? And was there a creature, besides the unlucky unicorn, that truly seemed magical?
Hangzhou. At its height, it was the largest, richest city I ever saw. Bustling canals, 12,000 bridges, I admit, I may have exaggerated, markets of endless silk. It felt a world unto itself. As for creatures, yaks, yes, and the orangutan, which I dubbed the wild man, elephants in Burma, trained for war, each animal, a lesson in nature's invention. Some, like the crocodile in India, inspired both terror and awe. I called it a dragon, for how else could a Venetian describe such a beast?
Your descriptions are so concrete. Paper money, printing, coal. Were you ever tempted to warn Venice, "Get ready, here comes the future"?
Ha! If I had, they'd have thought me madder than Odysseus. My friends laughed hearing that people trust a slip of paper as gold, that you could fuel an entire city from black stone, or use salt, pressed into cakes, for coin. Many only believed after I produced samples, porcelain, silk, yak hair. But I knew, whoever masters these wonders can command empires.
Let's talk commerce. As a Venetian, was it thrilling to find trade networks that dwarfed even the Republic? Did it influence your outlook on the world economy?
Absolutely. Venice prided itself as Queen of the Adriatic, yet in Cathay, I saw fleets of enormous ships, markets spanning continents, a bureaucracy tracking tax, and goods with precision we could not match. I realized then, Europe was only a corner, not the center, of trade. My sense of possibilities, of what could flow by river or sea, grew with each new port.
You write about the salt monopoly, specific figures even. Did you know you were providing Europe with economic intelligence?
I became, perhaps, the first Venetian to witness such structured government income. Salt revenues in Hangzhou, 5.8 million gold saggi by my notes, were immense. I recorded these numbers not as a mathematician, but as testimony to the wealth that could be created, and perhaps to remind Europe how small our treasures were by comparison.
You didn't mention the Great Wall, or tea, or wood block printing. Modern scholars sometimes point to this. Did you just overlook them, or was there a reason?
The Great Wall, in my day, was ruined, neglected by the Mongols. Tea, yes, I drank it but confessed, it struck me less than the spectacle of religious diversity or the canals of Suzhou. As for printing, I saw many marvels, but perhaps some details faded beside more dazzling sights. I regret what I missed, but every eye only sees so much.
How were you used politically? Did you ever fear being caught between Mongol, Persian, and Chinese ambitions?
All the time. Each region, Mongol, Turkic, Chinese, had its intrigues. As a foreign favorite, I walked a narrow bridge. The Khan's grace protected me, but I knew my fortunes depended on remaining useful, never threatening. Some Chinese chafed at a foreigner's role, some Mongol princes tested my loyalty. My father and uncle taught me to speak little, observe much, and never forget who held the sword or the seal.
Were there ethical moments, dilemmas about reporting things you knew might be misused or misunderstood in the West?
Certainly, I saw violence and cruelty, conquests, sieges, punishments. But the Khan also demanded roads, peace, prosperity. I chose to highlight the empire's wonders, not to erase horror, but because Europe refused to believe that Asia could outshine us, except by force. I hope history will see my aim was understanding, not flattery.
How did you handle seeing customs you found strange, or even shocking, like sati in India, or polygamy in the Mongol court?
At first, I recoiled. Yet over time, I learned not to judge, but to record. My business was chronicling, not condemning, but illuminating difference. Some things I described factually, others with wonder. I believed, still believe, the world's diversity is its genius, not its flaw.
Did you realize you were documenting ethnography, laying the groundwork for what we now call anthropology?
Ha, anthropology. If only I had known such a word. I observed as merchants must, part curiosity, part calculation. Later, I saw the value. Minds broaden as they see foreign custom not as madness, but as adaptation.
Your detailed itineraries helped later cartographers link rivers and mountain passes they had never seen. Did you keep a map journal along the way?
I carried route notes more than maps. Lists of day-long marches, wells, caravanserais, the width of rivers at ford, the taste of their water. A Chinese astronomer once taught me to read the stars by a south-pointing chariot, an ingenious compass cart. I sketched what I learned in margins of my ledger. Those scraps drifted through scribes' hands until they reached Mappamundi makers you mention.
Among your marvels, gunpowder stands out. Europe was still flinging stones while the UN hurled fire lances. What was your first reaction to that black dust that bites the air?
A mix of fear and astonishment. In Yunnan, I saw bamboo tubes spit flame that shattered walls. The smell, sulfur and charcoal, clung to my clothes for days. I suspected it would alter war more than any knight's valor. I wrote it down, line by line. Still, few believed me until smoke from cannons reached their own shores a century later.
You witnessed so many firsts. Porcelain, frozen milk desserts, even paper kites. After so many novelties, what did you miss most from Venice?
The smell of brine at dawn, my mother's stewed cuttlefish, the laughter echoing beneath low bridges. Wonders satisfy the eye, but homesickness gnaws at the gut.
On your return journey, you become, unexpectedly, a political courier, escorting Princess Kokochin. Did you feel the full weight of responsibility for an empire's alliance on your shoulders?
You put it keenly. The princess's safety meant peace between Kublai and Persia. We set out with 14 ships and 600 souls. Storms, illness, and shipwrecks reduced us to a shadow. I lost friends at sea. Once I believed we might drown all, to fail in duty and honor. Delivering her brought relief, and a bittersweet chance to journey home.
Was there joy or just exhaustion when you finally set foot back in Venice?
Both. We arrived in foreign dress, rough and sun-darkened. Our families, not recognizing us, nearly turned us away. Only when we revealed jewels sewn in our coats, our hidden fortune, did they rejoice. Yet peace was short-lived. Venice, at war with Genoa, soon swept me back into conflict.
And so, you end up imprisoned. Did you believe then that your life was at an end? Or was that Genoese cell the oddest kind of opportunity?
Strange place to revive a legend, isn't it? Rusticello, my cellmate, spun romances. I recited my travels. That tedium, my lowest point in Europe, gave birth to my highest achievement. Our book, in a language of merchants and Frenchmen, became a passport of its own.
Do you regret any embellishments or stories added for effect? Were you ever tempted to spice things up for the armchair readers?
Every teller of tales selects, omits, perhaps brightens the colors. But what I saw, I told earnestly, even if Rusticello's pen gilded a few lilies. I also reported marvels I heard but did not witness, always noting the difference. If some tales sound like fantasy, blame the world, not the narrator.
A brief context for listeners. Many scholars confirm Polo's account is remarkably accurate for its time, especially his economic and technological descriptions, even when his numbers, like 12,000 bridges, boggle modern minds. Debate about his presence in all places continues, but new studies have found corroborating evidence for his presence at court and the royal marriage mission.
You helped redraw both maps and imaginations. Did you ever imagine your book would change the course of history, fueling even Christopher Columbus centuries later?
I wrote for curiosity's sake, for kings and travelers, as an offering to those who would reach further than I. If Columbus or the cartographers took courage from my tales, it is gratification enough. Knowledge spreads not just through victory, but through the restless hunger to know.
Your book got copied, sometimes embellished, even doubted. Does that frustration ever linger?
Every tale, like a coin, passes through many hands, some honest, some clever. Doubt is the shadow of new knowledge. I welcome it. Let others go, see, and correct me. If my account drew scrutiny, at least it drew eyes beyond Europe's frontiers.
Your family, your father, uncle, what did you learn most from them? And was it ever hard being judged as the young one in their shadow?
My father taught patience and caution, my uncle, resourcefulness. As the youngest, my rashness sometimes led to near ruin. Their wisdom kept us safe. When I proved myself before the Khan, I think they grew proud. But more than pride, what bound us was loyalty, without which no man survives in strange lands.
You mentioned raising daughters, Fantina, Balela, Moreta. Did you want them to chase adventure or cherish the repose you found late in life?
I wished to give them both, the fire of curiosity and the strength to return home. I shared only select tales, enough to breed wonder, never fear. Above all, I hoped they would never need to prove themselves by danger as I did, but would be bold thinkers and wise traders.
Was there ever a moment where your own faith, Catholicism, was tested by what you saw in Asia? Did you ever doubt?
Travel tests all certainties. I witnessed Christians, Buddhists, Muslims, even Confucian sages, all practicing with zeal and, often, mutual respect. I learned to honor faith wherever I found goodness and wisdom. My loyalty to Christ never wavered, but I grew less quick to judge and more ready to discern.
What's one myth you'd like to finally set right? And one truth you wish had been believed?
Let go the myth of pasta and pizza. I harbored no secret recipes, only memories. But I wish more had trusted my accounts of the East's scale, of her vibrant cities and tolerance and riches. Belief is slow to travel where prejudice is swift.
Seeing Europe again after the East, did you find it shrunken or simply familiar?
It felt both, smaller in scope, unchanged in heart. Venice shone as ever, yet her triumphs seemed modest compared to what I had known. Still, the embrace of home outweighs all foreign marvels.
Do you think the Silk Road, the openness you experienced, could ever return to link worlds again?
Empires rise and fall, but the urge to connect endures. As long as men value learning, as long as markets crave silk and spices, someone will find a way across frontiers. May it always be so.
If you had to write a single sentence for history, what would it be?
Let no man's map limit your voyage. There is always more to see and more in heaven and earth than your philosopher's dream.
When all is said and done and the pages are closed, what legacy do you hope your daughters and Venice itself carry forward?
That curiosity outweighs fear, and that trade can be a language of peace. If my tales kindle even one voyage made in friendship, they will have served their purpose.
Across deserts and summits, through war and wonder, Marco Polo carried not just news of the world, but an ever-open mind. For every myth there's a deeper truth. The courage to ask, to change, and to return home changed yourself. History remembers his marvels, but the heart of his legacy is curiosity, humility, and refusing to let boundaries bind our dreams.
Marco Polo's journey still echoes in every new path forged, every new perspective shared, and every moment when doubt gives way to discovery. May we, too, learn to travel beyond our certainties and greet the world with open eyes. On our next episode, Echoes Through Time brings you another forgotten voice who shaped our course. Until then, remember, marvels await not just at the world's end, but wherever you allow wonder to lead. In his final will, Marco ordered the liberation of a Tatar servant and donated funds to the Church of San Lorenzo, one last bridge between distant peoples and his own parish bell. Even in death, his compass pointed outward,